your background.
Yeah, excellent,
Oh,
excellent
okay.
choice. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say welcome. My name's Alex. I run a huge Instagram account, Love Sugar Show, and thanks so much for taking the time to do this with me today.
Thanks so much for having us on. Pleasure.
And I did also want to say I did listen to the newest song and the newest album from the album that you guys put out, and it is fantastic. Like I'm so excited to hear the
Oh,
rest of it.
Thanks so much. Super kind. Thanks very much. Yeah. Can't wait to get
So
it out.
So I did want to go ahead and kind of talk about you guys because I did wasn't able to find too much, so I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of people
Sure.
do too.
No
So
problems.
how did you guys come into being a band?
You want to take this one?
Well, just in lockdown, we just, bored and needed a way to keep sane, I guess. So we're both quite musical and started kind of, I love metal obviously, and just um started jamming around. And then we put a few songs together that we thought, oh, these are all right, like we think.
I think it's just like a hobby, like more
Yeah.
than anything else. Because yeah, like so says, I mean, we're married for any of your listeners that don't know. So we live together, and we've been stuck in sort of isolation for months. And we've got little kids as well. So everything had turned kind of into Groundhog Day, and we've been talking for a while around doing something folk metally. And yeah, so says we'd not played in a fair while, so we got the instruments out and sort of dusted them off again, and kind of made just an initial few tracks just for our own amusement more than anything else.
Yeah.
And we decided to put them out there, and it got a surprising amount of traction. And then we went and did something a bit more serious with our first full-length album, which was Samhain, which came out in 21. And that again just really surprised us. Trepanation Recordings, which is a UK underground label, kindly picked us up and put that one out. And it just kind of went from there, really.
Well, I think that's awesome. That's probably the best thing that's happened in COVID. So I'm glad you guys were so bored that you created this awesome band.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Alex.
So what can the fans expect with this album?
I guess this one is kind of a continuation in that sort of melodeath slash folk sort of style that we'd kind of done with the first full length so and so it's still got a very melodeath with sort of touches of black metal foundation into it, but there is that sort of folky lead aspect to it in some of the music where we try and replicate the sort of lead tunes, if you like, that you would get on like Scottish traditional instruments, but without using those instruments. So
Mhm.
instead of using like an accordion or a fiddle or bagpipes or anything like that, we'll take the same sort of chords or scales or rhythms and then transpose those onto the lead guitar. So through most of the tracks, certainly you'll find that there's this sort of quite fast-paced, as you would kind of hear in some Scottish folk music, melody going over the top. But what we try to differ from more traditional folk metal is that we're putting all of that onto the distorted guitars, and we do still use some elements of the more traditional instrumentation, but it's kind of supporting rather than leading. And then the biggest thing that probably identifies our music is probably Soph's vocals, I guess, that makes it so different from a lot of the melodeath that's out there at the moment. We're bringing that sort of ethereal vibe over the top to sort of counterbalance, but maybe not in the more traditional Beauty and Beast sort of styles of the clean operatics. I guess your style is a lot more softer.
Haphazard music, I would say.
So,
I'll be
yeah.
honest, Sophie, when I did hear your voice, the only thing that came to my mind was angelic. So
Ah,
it's
that's
amazing.
so nice. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah,
So
it's
I'm
it's
also
pretty awesome.
sure everyone's dying to know how is it working with your spouse on music and being in a band together?
Yeah. I mean, we were just rowing before we started, like bickering. So, no, generally speaking, it's really good. Like it's we're both really creative, so it's really fun to be doing a creative project together. Yeah. And it means that we can work on it quite a lot of the time. I don't know how we would do it if we weren't married. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really fun. It's yeah, really I think it really helps as well in the writing process and the recording process because we can do all that at home. So like I played in a few bands in my teens and sort of early 20s. And I loved it, but if you were ever doing the writing and recording part, it took a lot of time. You had to do a lot of iterations. You had to compromise a lot in terms of the style and the sound and what each part was doing. And it took just time to build up those tracks. Whereas because we're living together, and we're in the house a lot of the time with the kids, you can just have, the battered old acoustic sitting in the corner and just thrash out a melody and, how does that sound over breakfast, or whatever. And then you'll say, shut up, it's breakfast time. And I'll say, okay, right. But then in the evening, I'll then do it again and say, okay, but how about now? And then we can have that sort of discussion fairly easily. And it means you can also, I guess because we're married, we're used to having those sort of friction points anyway. So it's not like when you're in a band with,
And you can be really honest.
Yeah, yeah.
So if it's not sounding great, you can just be like, oh no,
Yeah,
it's not.
you can just be like, John, no, it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try again. But it's great because you just get that instant feedback, honest feedback that's like, yeah, it's not going to work. I mean, we need to do, maybe do it more like this. So actually the writing process is like massively accelerated, which I think is maybe reflected in the amount of volume of stuff we've been able to put out over the last 3 years, I guess, just because it is so fast to get it done. And then we just record it all at home and then send it off electronically to the engineer, who then makes it absolutely sparkle over at Sphinx Studios with Winter over there, who does a fantastic job.
That's awesome. Are there any sort of themes that we're going to see on the new album?
So a lot of our stuff is really based on Scottish mythology. I'd say it's a pretty massively untapped resource for weird creatures and weird sort of spirits and all sorts of interesting things. Like you see an awful lot at the moment coming out from the Nordic sort of pantheon is really popular at the moment, and all the various gods and deities and beasts in there. I'd say there's probably even more in Scottish mythology that aren't known by most Scottish people, and myself included, right? Like when we were sitting down doing some of the research for this album.
So cool. There's so much.
There's so much there that we didn't even know. Like, we've grown up here. I mean, the whole concept of the Kalliach as the sort of witch god of winter, that was kind of news to me until I was like well into my sort of early 30s, even though I was brought up partly on the west coast of Scotland where my mum's family's from, which is very near where the Coivrecken whirlpool is, which I didn't even know at the time there was a whirlpool there. I didn't even know it was the third largest whirlpool in the world. And I certainly didn't know that there was a witch god of winter lurking beneath the waters who kind of rises every year to bring in winter. But all of this stuff is just like not so accessible a lot of the time. So we try and bring a lot of that out.
Fodder for metal.
Yeah, excellent. Absolutely endless fodder for mythical creatures and weird sort of stuff. So yeah, that's very much the vibe of the writing and the themes anyway.
So as a fan, that means I'm going to learn a lot about some folklore and things from the album.
Hopefully. You might have to do a little bit digging as to what the hell a Kieran Crowan is. And or an Ayahuasca if you're listening to our last one. But yeah, I mean, there's such weird ones. So I mean, the Kieran Crowans, they're probably that's the only mythical beast one we've got in this one, isn't it? I think that's the only one. Yeah. But that's this giant sort of serpent or big monster of the sea that would eat 7 whales a day. And so actually sings the chorus in that song, which is actually a nursery rhyme, a Gaelic nursery rhyme that was told to kids. And the translation is 7 herrings a salmon's meal, 7 salmon are a seal's meal, 7 seals are an orca's meal, and 7 orcas are Kieran Crowan's meal. And that's like the sort of dark, twisted nursery rhyme that we absolutely love and want to put like a tune to and turn it into a metal song. So
probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely your favorite from the new one for sure. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite song on the album, or do you have one? Does it change daily?
I think that one's my favorite, just because that nursery rhyme kind of aspect of it really gets stuck in your head. So as soon as I think as soon as I start singing it, it gets stuck in my head.
Yeah. It's pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty chorus on a very not pretty song. And then I guess my one. Well, I mean, I love the single we've dropped already, which is Fell Rains, and did the music video for there. But I think my favorite is probably the last one. Twilight and the Fire, which is it's quite a self-indulgent sort of track. It's a 7 minute sort of epic one, but it starts off with just Soph's vocals and harp playing all the way through, and then it really builds from there quite a lot into a lot more of our sort of more recognizable melodeath sort of maelstrom sort of sound by the end of it. And I really, really had a lot of fun writing some of the bits on that were then going to evolve over the course of the track, and really, I guess, sort of showcasing the dynamics from Soph's very angelic vocals, as you put it, with very bare instrumentation and quite a sort of fragile sort of atmosphere to it, to the real royal that's there by the end of the track.
That sounds awesome. I cannot wait to hear the rest of it. Like
Oh, awesome.
it's a little bit away. I know it drops on the 23rd, so I'm counting down the days.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we hope everyone likes it enough as
really
as
hope,
much as we do.
yeah, just hope people like it.
So is that kind of where the band name came from, like some folklore stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Kalliach is spelled differently, but it translates in Gaelic. It's a Gaelic word for, well, it's actually a Gaelic word for old lady, but the Kalliach was the old lady, who was this witch god of winter, and she sleeps as stone. So she turns to stone during the summer months, when she's got a counterpart in mythology that rules over summer, but then she arises from the Corrib whirlpool at the beginning of winter, which is the period of which is called Samhain, which was the name of our last album, our debut full length one. And that one is actually, Samhain as an event is the sort of pagan precursor, pre-Christianity Halloween. So it's the start of winter, and that was the date on which that would begin, because it's kind of aligned with lunar cycles. No, it's not solar cycles, sorry. Yeah. And then from there, she rules over the course of winter, and then as it gets to the end of winter, she returns back beneath the waves and turns back to stone, awaiting the next autumn.
Okay, that's too bad. Summer's really awesome. She should stay out for at least a little bit.
Well, she does at the end of winter. There's the festival of Beltane, which is the fire festival. It's quite a popular festival in Scotland, and that was traditionally marking the end of the reign of the Kalliach and the rise of summer instead. So we might do something on that at some point further down the line. We'll see.
So I have to ask, is this her on the album cover that we're seeing?
Yeah.
An interpretation of, like, she's got quite a detailed and varied depiction in Scottish mythology. She's either variously depicted as an old hag who sort of wanders the lands, but then sometimes she's portrayed as a youthful woman, and other times she's portrayed as a giant who sort of strides down from Ben Nevis. And what we want to capture with the artwork, which the artist really kind of helped us out with, was the more giant sort of malevolent form rising from the Corrib whirlpool at winter. And one of the key bits from mythology was that she cast her plaid, which is her sort of Scottish sort of cloak, into the whirlpool until it's bright white, and then she takes that off, throws it over the land where it lands as snow. So that white cloak then becomes the sort of land. And what the artist did a really great job. Viajet, we found him on Fiverr actually. He did a great job of actually showing this white cloak being formed from the foam of the Corrib whirlpool, as she's sort of in all her winter splendor. So that was definitely the target we're going for with the artwork.
Yeah, I'm definitely learning a lot. I love folklore, so when I hear bands, I'm like, yes, I can learn a little bit more.
Awesome. Glad you're digging it. Yeah.
So I have to ask, because I know in America we have like a pretty big metal scene. What's it like over where you are? Like, I guess Scottish, England type area.
Yeah, I think the UK metal scene is really thriving at the moment. I think worldwide we're going through kind of a golden age of metal. There's just so much new stuff is coming out. I mean, there's a couple of accounts we follow that track all the metal releases, and it's often no less than like 50 a week. 50 a week, there's like new albums just coming out, which is fantastic because there's just no end. At the same time, it can be quite challenging to keep up and actually work out what to listen to and where you actually want to direct some of your attention. But the scene is really fantastic, and even in Scotland, I think it's really good. I think I mean, there's no escaping we're a small country, and so the scenes are proportionately a bit smaller as a result. But there's some really big bands still coming out now doing some big tours. Bleed From Within, big Scottish more metalcore band. They're supporting Slipknot now on their sort of European tour, which was a massive win for Scottish metal across the piece, really. And then you see the likes of even some of the more unique or sort of harder genres like Hell Ripper. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're absolutely pushing it out fantastically at the moment. Doing huge tours over Europe, supporting Abath, so the former sort of emperor guy. Just so there's a lot of cool stuff going on at the moment in the Scottish scene for sure. But yeah, it's still kind of restricted in terms of overall size, but it's really fun to be able to kind of put some of this stuff out there, especially with the likes of the size and reputation that the US based prosthetic has. So yeah, been a big win for us on that front, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited that metal is finally getting some recognition. I'm like, finally, people are starting to listen to good music. That's
Awesome.
exciting.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, I saw you guys signed up with a new label not too long
Yeah.
ago, last month.
Absolutely, that's Prosthetic Records. So massive pedigree there. I mean, we've been big fans of things that Prosthetic put out for a long time. So they put out Gojira back in the day. They put out, I think they did some of the early Lamb of God records as well. So like we've always loved the stuff they've been doing, and for them to pick us up off the back of our sort of underground UK label Trepanation that we were on before was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really big because I think we just still feel like quite a small band, and it just felt like a huge deal. But we're kind of getting used to it, getting used to the idea of it.
Yeah.
But it is, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, you guys definitely deserve it. Like I went back and listened to all your stuff. I'm like, wow, this band is amazing.
That's really
Thanks,
kind.
Alex.
Thank
It's
you
really
very
kind. Yeah,
much.
for sure.
Also, the music video is beautiful, by the way. Like I watched it like more times than I'm willing to admit in this interview. But can you kind of tell us a little about the creative process and what it was like filming it, and if there's any fun stories that happened while filming it? Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Well, shall I do the creative bit and you can talk about the fun stories? Yeah. So, so we were really lucky. Again, this was something that came about just mainly because of the prosthetic signing. Becky Laverty over there is one of their sort of main PR bosses, and she was fantastic in terms of linking us up with some really good filmographers who could videographers, that's a better word, who could do the video for us. I guess having the funding from a big label as well meant that we could go out and do that sort of video where previously we wouldn't have been brave enough to put that sort of money up to do a music video without being worried if we ever actually see the benefit from it. But David and James, the two directors, were absolutely fantastic. They were so interested in all the mythology, asking very similar questions to what you've been asking, and wanting to really bring to life this idea of this sort of dual-faced hag god. So Soph is kind of portraying the sort of younger version, and they literally put a Facebook ad in on the west coast of Scotland for hag wanted for music video.
It was so good because everyone was tagging their like friends and aunties, being like, "Oh, you'd be great for this old
Hey,
hag."
Maureen, you'd
Yeah.
make a great old hag, eh?
And they'd be like, "Oh, that's great."
Yeah.
That's so rude, but yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. And credit to them, like there was a fantastic response. I think they got something like 50 applicants coming in from a couple of small towns over on the West Coast, which was amazing. And Vivian, the one that did join us, she's actually she's a properly trained actor and came up with like all her own gear, had really read up, already knew a bunch of the mythology about it, and just absolutely did a fantastic performance. And the whole sort of themes of the video is the two dual faces of the Kalliach figure, and the bit with the sort of loch rising and stuff like that. A lot of this is to do with, in mythology, she's got these 8 attendants, and there's not a lot made of the attendants, but we kind of with David and James, the directors, kind of ad-libbed on that a little bit and said, well, what if the attendants were her sort of retinue that she pulls out of the lochs and then throws them into the skies as her winter storms, and then drags them out the sort of next winter. And that was kind of the theme and the sort of vibe we're going for with the video. And to your second question on the funny story as well, I mean, there's any number you could probably pick from there, I guess.
I mean, it was such fun to shoot. It was such gorgeous well, I say gorgeous day, but it was like winter
freezing.
in
Yeah.
Holland, so very cold, very rainy, very wet, but stunning views, stunning location.
Yeah.
But we'd been filming all day, and we were already kind of, it was raining all day, and it looked great, but we were already freezing. And then they had the idea of putting John in the lock, and you you were not so sure, and everyone else was very sure.
Including Soph,
Yeah,
'cause,
oh
you know,
yeah.
she's a good wife,
Yeah.
and she was just like, yeah, do it, do it, do it.
John's going straight in the lock. And yeah, it was good. But unfortunately, well, first they stopped you because they were filming like above, so John was underneath the water, and they were
Like lying
filming
down under
probably
the water,
about,
having to hold my breath
you were
in
like,
this
you were like,
freezing, like 2 degrees of like Scottish loch
like
water.
hilt
which,
flapping about
yeah,
in
yeah,
the in the
in the currents,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
currents. So the little fish having a nibble. And then John's face comes up, and you need to stop the bubbles. You're like, that's just my breathing. I can't stop.
Can't leave me there for 5 minutes. And it's like, no
No
way.
breath.
Yeah.
And then so back he goes, and then you come back up like, oh, that's very cold. And James just said that they hadn't got any of the footage, and it hadn't recorded at all.
James hadn't pressed record, is the truth of that, right? He's a lovely guy, but there was just this silence across the set as I sat up, and I was like, what? And James went,
I didn't
I'm so sorry. It doesn't appear to have recorded. And so you just have to do it again. So bite down.
We
Yeah,
did it all
figures,
again.
yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. It looked really cool.
It was worth
Totally
it. I'll give them that. Yeah, they
And
knew the
Vikram
shot
was
that they
like,
wanted to get.
like
So
he was knee deep in the water as well with his camera, so like doing a much harder job than just you laying
oh,
there.
yeah. Knee deep in the water. Oh,
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, that seemed like really awesome, by the way. I mean,
Oh,
when you came out of the water, you looked like, I don't know, like, it was just really awesome. Like the look on your face is like, yes, I'm ready to start this music video.
It's like it's like Soph was saying on a sort of post we put up the other day. Like there was no acting in that whatsoever. That was just John's genuine frustration at being hurled in the loch in the middle of autumn and made to reshoot the scene like 3 times. Entirely authentic, yeah, absolutely.
So I know there's also some parts in the music video where there's like a bass player. Is that either of you or some random other person?
That's actually just my guitar. It's just it's got a very chunky 7th string on it, which just looks really really heavy. So Soph does play the bass for us, as well as the vocals, and she's playing on the track. But we did bring her bass, but they decided it would just look a lot better if she was just doing her ethereal walking through the woods, which like I think makes bags of sense. We do have a couple of new members in the band now that we're bringing on for live shows as we're getting up to speed on the practicing side of things, but it was just us for the music video.
Okay, where are you guys looking at touring?
I think, to be honest, we're just still working out whether or not we can get some local shows in, because it comes back to like the mad thing that, you know, we are married, which is great for a lot of the writing and the recording side of things, but we've also got like young kids as well. So if we want to get out to actually do a practice, it's not just one of us boosting out to go and practice with the band. We both need to get out there. So even just sorting things like Friday night practices is like got to be a childcare a childminder lined up like 2-3 weeks in advance, just so we get things locked in. So, but I mean, we'd love to travel further afield, and Prosthetic have been fantastic in terms of really supporting us and giving us a good shove to try and do some more of that as well, which we'd definitely love to do. So we are working towards it, but nothing in stone just yet. We're hoping maybe from summer to try and get at least some local gigs in, and then maybe try and do a few places in the UK, and then maybe further afield after that.
That would be cool. I would be excited for that.
Awesome. I'd love to go into the States for sure. That would be a dream.
And then I do have one last question for you guys. Do you guys have anything you'd like to say to your current fans, new fans, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we just say a massive thanks, to be honest. I think we were very reserved about putting the music out there, even in the first place, back when we were just doing the lockdown EP. And the response that we've had from fans, from radio hosts, from reviewers and writers has really honestly been the thing that's kept us going, and actually convinced us that this was a sound that people were actually vibing with and really wanted to hear more of. And I honestly don't think we would have taken it any further than the first 5-track EP if we'd not had that support. So I'd say a massive, massive heartfelt thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I do appreciate you guys taking the time again to do this interview.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
you guys
thanks,
have
Alex.
an
It's been awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Do you guys have an Instagram already for the
Yeah,
band?
absolutely. You can find us just at handofkalliach.com. And yeah, we're on all the other sort of socials as well for similar sort of handles. So yeah, just search us up and you'll hopefully find us there.
Okay, great. And again, record is releasing on the 23rd, so I'll definitely get some stuff up and tag you guys on Instagram if that's okay.
Amazing.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alex. Much
All
appreciated.
right, guys. Well, take care and thanks again.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.